Hi everyone, welcome to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, your daily audio summary of the latest news reported in the Ukrainian media. My name is Artem, and here is the news. For 952 days, Ukraine stands strong against the forced Russian invasion. Khortytsia operational group of forces officially confirmed that Ukrainian troops have left the city of Vuhledar in Donetsk Oblast, reports Unian. According to the commanders, this was done to preserve personnel and military equipment and to take up positions for further fighting. Despite suffering heavy losses from prolonged fighting, the enemy persisted in their efforts to capture the city. Determined to seize control at any cost, they deployed reserves to launch flanking attacks that strained the defenses of the Ukrainian armed forces. These actions created a threat of encirclement of the city. The High Command authorized withdrawal of units from Vuhledar in order to preserve personnel and military equipment. Information about the loss of Vuhledar was shared by the Deep State OSINT initiative on 1st of October. Analysts of the Institute for the Study of War believe that the occupation of Vuhledar is unlikely to dramatically change the course of offensive operations in the western part of Donetsk Oblast, as the city is not a particularly important logistical hub. The Office of the United Nations High Commissioner for Human Rights released a report on the situation with Ukrainian POWs in Russia, reports Ukrainska Pravda. According to the report, the Russians systematically torture and abuse Ukrainian prisoners of war. 169 out of 174 interviewed POWs said such abuse was widespread during interrogations, transfer to detention facilities, and daily internment procedures. Their testimonies were confirmed by other sources of information, the report says. Torture includes beatings, electric shocks, sexual violence, suffocation, prolonged strenuous positions, forced physical exertion, sleep deprivation, mock executions, and threats. The occupying authorities in Kherson repeatedly subjected a detained man to beatings, suffocation, waterboarding, rape, electric shocks, including to genitals, and threats of castration after his apprehension in September 2022. The UN emphasizes that many of the documented cases of torture or ill treatment involved employees of different state institutions, often indicating a significant level of coordination between them. In addition, prison guards were aware of such treatment and could prevent it. We would really appreciate if you could rate us, ideally with 5 stars, and leave a glowing review in the app where you are listening to this podcast, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and others. This really helps more people to find out about the highlights from Ukraine and truth about Russia's invasion. The Ukraine's Institute of Demography predicts that the country's population could decline to 25.2 million by 2051, reports Novinarnya. To minimize the consequences of this crisis, the Cabinet of Ministers has approved the strategy for demographic development of the country for the period up to 2040. The reasons for the crisis are the war, low birth rate, migration, including due to Russia's armed aggression, high premature mortality, labor market imbalance, and others. The strategy states that as of the date of the all-Ukrainian population census on 5th December 2001, the population of Ukraine was 48.5 million, and as of July 2024, the country's population was estimated to be 35.8 million, of which 31.1 million people lived in the territories where public authorities exercised their powers in full. The strategy points to the need to create an environment favorable to the birth and upbringing children, ensuring the economic self-sufficiency of families. This refers to security development of the country, including critical and social infrastructure, access to housing, quality healthcare, jobs, etc. The need for those Ukrainians who are currently living abroad to return to Ukraine is also emphasized. The Ministry of Foreign Affairs of Ukraine strongly condemned the large-scale Iranian missile attack against Israel on the evening of 1st October and called on the parties to prevent the conflict from escalating into a large-scale war, reports Espresso. Quote, "Peaceful people should never be the target of deadly assaults," unquote, said the statement. The ministry also called on Ukraine's allies to defend Ukrainian airspace with the same determination and without hesitation from Russian missile and drone attacks as they did for Israel, recognizing this way that human life is equally precious in any part of the world. President of Ukraine Volodymyr Zelensky touched upon this issue in his evening video address. Quote, Ukraine has long been saying to all its neighbors, to all its major partners, that we need to cooperate, we need to shoot down Shahed drones, shoot down missiles together, and especially in areas close to NATO countries. This is absolutely possible, unquote. Thank you for listening to the Highlights from Ukraine podcast, a non-commercial initiative of just two people, and we need your help to grow. Share information about the podcast, rate us in the app, subscribe to our Patreon. With your support, we are getting better. We call on you to demand from governments of your countries to impose the toughest sanctions possible on Russia and its citizens to stop their invasion of Ukraine.